now I'm going to hand over to Chelsea. As difficult as this is to imagine, she's even more beautiful on the inside as she is on the outside. I know it's almost unbelievable. Her story is incredible. We've known each other for absolutely years. I've seen you go through high highs and low lows. And I asked her, because she's over here at the moment, I asked her to come and share a bit of her story. Everybody in the US market worships the ground she works on, loves her, adores her, very, very well known and respected. So we're going to spread the love here.
Hi, everyone. Okay, really fast, I need everybody to stand up. We've all been sitting too long. Put your hands up really high and then just pull down, shake it out, and then sit down. Hi. So, a little bit about myself. I probably came a bit of the farthest. I'm from sunny San Diego. My name's Chelsea Jones, and I now am the co-founder of Sunny Road. But a little bit of what I want to talk about as an agency it's a little on the unique, we're going to go business and personal, is around alignment and grounding, brand and courage, partnership and overcoming, and then more importantly, you don't need more noise, you need more alignment. Let's build from there. So we're not just getting exhausted, burning ourselves out, having those 10,000 hour days that I'm sure every owner in this room has been on. And we're doing something better for the future. All right, a little bit about me. So you know where I come from, what I did. I started an agency 15 years ago and then started Chelsea and Rachel 12 years ago, 11 years ago now. My business partner, Rachel, at the time, we started early days in Shopify. We were one of the first ones trying to tinker around with it. I came from the design background, so I was in creative art, went into advertising, got into web development because I was like, you can't really make it as an artist. Brought on Rachel as a business partner. She did more strategy. I did more design and development. We just decided to call it our names and started building the Shopify ecosystem early on. It took us 5 years to become a Shopify Plus partner. We were one of the first, I think one of 3 women-owned Shopify Plus partners in the US. So I was pretty proud of that. Rachel, though, and me burned ourselves almost to the ground kind of running this company. We grew from 5 people to 30 people in 2020. So COVID and the same time, plus I had a toddler at home and a 4-year-old while I was trying to understand how to navigate that world. So we went all in on the business, but to the extent of what kind of costs did it have, like on our health, family, life, all of it. What was also interesting that I'm publicly now sharing that I wasn't as much at the time is in COVID, I left with a backpack and my 2 kids because my ex-husband was an abusive cop. And I had to literally leave for safety reasons while running a company, while trying to navigate this with my business partner and starting over with literally just a backpack. So I share that to say, sometimes you never know what companies and what people and founders are actually going through when they're actively building stuff. So fast forward a couple years, we're building, we're growing, we're kind of in this mode, and then Rachel gets to a point of like, I'm just done doing the agency life. It's hard, I'm stressed, I'm like, we're running too many people and too many teams, I want out. And I was like, well, I can't not do this. It's my livelihood for me and my 2 kids. Like, I'm in a different scenario. Like, okay, what does that look like? So I bought her out of the business. I rebranded to C&R Co. because I was like, oh, well, let's just shorten our names. And I tried running it on my own for 2 years. It almost killed me because of a couple reasons. One, not only running your own company after having a partner for 8 years was really hard, but I learned really quickly I am not an ops person and I don't like HR, and there's a lot of things I'm not good at while I'm good at certain things. The other key interesting fact is I had a surprise after my divorce was final a month later. I walked into urgent care thinking I had just a stress ulcer from work. It ended up being a stage 2 cancer tumor, removed. Yeah, all while like kind of growing. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. We'll just get that out. It's gone. It should be all gone. Everything's good. I kept building. I kept growing and stuff. Then cancer came back. And last year, I'm public about this on LinkedIn, so I know this sounds like a lot, but I think it's important to understand what kind of paths sometimes take to have complete transformations. So in the middle of running C&R and having cancer now for the second time, I was like, Okay, what do I want my life to look like? When you have something that literally kind of feels like it's trying to take you out in multiple ways of life, you've got to do a little bit of soul searching, right? You have to have these moments of like, what the heck am I doing? What does this even matter? Where is that like footing of, okay, I want to actually do something better with my life, with my passion. I loved working with brands. I loved doing the things that we do in e-com because it was so interesting, but I needed a little more of that like grounding and balance. Now, as an entrepreneur, I don't know if we ever really achieve balance. That can be different for everybody. But I literally had this kind of moment and epiphany with God of saying like, what is next? There has to be something different, and I don't believe this is the end. So while I was going through chemo treatments and kind of like figuring out different stuff, because I'd run the company long enough, I had some people approach on M&A and different scenarios that way. And honestly, I didn't want to work for any of those VC people and stuff. I'm like, I'm a founder, I want to build stuff. So I ended up having a long conversation with my now business partner, Drew Himmel, who ran Fireside Digital for 17 years. We decided to merge our companies and form Sunny Road. This was a couple things of a new, fresh beginning that I was very excited about. One, I needed a little more space and peace in my life for obvious reasons. Two, Drew became the right business partner for me because we were aligned on values and core components of wanting to build business for people and not just always for the bottom line. I think the biggest thing that's so interesting as agencies is we're so good at numbers focused, we're so good at brands that like have to do things where it's fascinating what we can see that people are doing. I mean, I had a company that sells diesel filter products, 2 guys making like $10 million a year. You know, it's fascinating what you can see companies do, but at the end of the day, what they do and what they matter still comes back to the passion on it. So Drew and I merged our companies, announced this year at Shop Talk actually, and eTail that we're Sunny Road in order to be the first kind of founder-led, backed, without taking VC funds, challenger agency to the domains of the world since they're not here, and all of the others that are trying to take over the ecosystem in Shopify, but also to start pivoting into this storytelling mode of tech should not be an exhausting burnout scenario. It needs to be better, brighter, happier. Like we've seen incredible success stories, and a lot of times there's so much like dark and angst and intensity and burnout that is happening all around us. So not only did I launch Sunny Road, but I have a couple of really good friends in the ecosystem of digital marketing and some masterminds I've been a part of in the US. And we also launched a fun little side project clothing line called Live Not Die. I was able to get livenotdie.com as a domain name so that I could also kind of test, oh, I've been in the agency space for so long, what else does this look like? But I share this to say the vision for Sunny Road and why I'm really passionate about this team and what we're kind of doing is it should be something that is better. Like I have led teams and people and had a lot of hard hits, as you guys have heard over the last 5 years. But life is still what we choose it every single day, right? Like we don't know what tomorrow holds. We don't know if we're gonna get hit by a bus if I don't look the right way in Scotland or anything. But we do know that like what we do matters based on like who we interact with and the power that we have in the conversations that we have in the businesses that we are building online now wasn't available 20, 30 years ago. Like we're helping shape the future on what we can actually do in terms of marketing, commerce. Like honestly, even though it feels like a slog sometimes, like it really is a game changer on how we're influencing the next generation in being able to be in tech in this day and age. We keep talking about robots taking over the world, but it's still gonna be people. Like these kind of events are gonna be more important than ever because the robot's not gonna look you in the eye and have this conversation and be like, hey, Martin, back there, you had this whole tech conversation earlier. What does that look like, right? So I wanted to share a little bit about where I kind of see vision happening for agencies, and you guys can take this or leave it with where and how you're building. But in my thought process, I think we're on the intersection of technology and touch and human and digital. So like at my agency, I like to say like we marry art and science to make the most beautiful and converting websites, right? Like that seems very generic, and it is. And our niche and what I was known for many years was with CNR and Chelsea and Rachel was subscriptions, food and beverage, beauty, wellness. Like we're really good at that kind of niche. But I do think it's also important as we go up market and as we're talking about other bigger brands to help people understand on a simplicity level that it's not overwhelming and there still is that like human factor behind it and we're still people helping people. Because every client I sign on or anybody that comes to work for here goes back to, I'll come back to this, my why. These are my 2 kids, Titus and Ari, and they have been like my why for the very reason that I truly believe that I'm here today, but also to do anything that I'm doing with work or anything that I'm doing kind of going forward. And I think it's so important as we all as busy founders and busy business people like can easily stack our day. And I am probably queen of this. I've had a calendar that has been way too stacked for way too long. And this last year I've had an intentionally like block out time just to rest or just to be or like block these different things. And it's been the best decision I've ever done. But it helps me show up for them more because I'm able to be like, all right, this is what I can do. This is what I can't do. This is what I have to offboard. This is what I have to get another founder involved in or simply like just kind of buy back your time. And so I wanted you guys to see this quote a little bit. Does anybody know what an epitaph is? Okay, a couple of people, maybe. So I didn't know what an epitaph was until going into the research on this, but an epitaph is a tombstone. So the whole concept of live, not die and this like storyline of what we want to do around Sunny Road with being brighter, but also with this clothing line side is being anti-epitaph. What does it look like to have a full cup? What does it look like to fill your cup? If you kind of see the logo in the top corner, live, not die. It should be a reminder to be like the head, not the tail, to be above, not below, that you have a like defender going on war on your behalf, no matter what the odds look like. And I want to pause here for a minute because as we lean into all of the work that we have going in the growth goals and things like this, I've been around some incredible founders who have exited insane amounts of money for different companies. I personally have probably self-sacrificed more in running my business than a lot of people, but I also wouldn't change it for anything. And so as we look at as founders and we're trying to navigate stuff, it's so important that we really anchor in to what is it that we're doing this for and who are we doing it for, because otherwise it doesn't really matter. And so I came here far from San Diego to meet with all of you guys in the EU for a couple of reasons. One, I believe the future is partnerships and how we are actually going to build better business and better understanding is by sharing stories and networking with one another, sharing clients with one another, as well as just honestly inspiring one another when it gets hard. Because any of you in the agency game for a while, it gets real hard sometimes. Like I've had the calls from the clients in the middle of the night with the different boundaries you have to put on, and that's what I love that Rachel's so good and bullish about, being like, no, we're gonna have more costs for it because it does take a premium there. But you don't get to a level of success or get to a level of knowing without a lot of repetition. One of my business mentors told me, if you're ever in a really hard spot and you're like kind of don't know where to go next, sometimes you just need to get in the boat and row. Has any of you an athlete in here or have done like rowing? Or maybe at the gym do the rowing? Okay. So you'll know what I'm talking about. When sometimes you just like have to mentally shut out the noise and just kind of get in the boat and row. I think that's the same thing sometimes with agencies. We have to remember that there is so much more to what we are building that impacts the people around us. And if we don't start putting that in front of others, like it's going to be kind of null and void. Now, I also am looking around the room, and I know this has been a long day. And so show of hands of how many are kind of ready to go out to have the bar time. I could talk about this all day, but I want to like read the room and not put everybody to sleep. You ready? Okay, one. Only one? Surprising. I know, he's like, I'm done. Out. All right, well, I'm gonna end here. I just want to encourage all of you guys, like, and I'm happy to talk to some of you one-on-one, but don't forget your why. because it is so important. And diversity and women in leadership do really matter. I'm really going to be bullish about that because you never know what people are going through. And if we don't start talking about this story in the room, I mean, let's be real, we're all business owners and stuff here, but there's very few women to men ratio. And that's typical in tech. Like, it's been that way my whole career. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm saying it should be the right people always in the room, but we should be more aware of it, because if we're not, it's going to not have more opportunities for more people to have these better conversations that lift everyone. So that's all.